It's the Wake Up Call with Ed and Paul, the podcast about stories in business and in life, with your hosts Ed Fox and Paul Odendahl. G'day viewers and listeners, it's Ed Fox and Paul Odendahl with another great episode of the Wake Up Call with Ed and Paul. And our special guest today, Kristen Jacobson. Did I get that right?
Correct.
Yay! Look at that.
Yay.
First point.
We are so excited to have Kristen on the show.
So, Kristen, tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is you do.
Well, I'm Kristen Jacobson. I live in Burbank, California. I've been married for 24 years. I have two children, two teenagers, 14-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son.
Wow.
Two dogs, and I own a financial services agency. I've been in the business about 2 years now, and I'm in the process of studying to get my Series 6 license and my Series 8 and 28 and 58 and 68.
All the numbers.
And all of the numbers that I have. Don't even ask me what they all mean.
The only number that is important to me is the number 42.
Tell me about that.
You guys Douglas Adams fans by chance? English author? No. So he
No
wrote a
idea.
book called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
And the answer to life, the universe, and everything is the number 42. Because anyway,
I thought that had a Big Bang reference because I think Sheldon had 42 times. That was the number they were trying to figure out. That the little, what do they call those little balls that you kick with your foot?
Soccer?
Hacky sack.
Or
Hacky sack, 42 times without dropping it.
There you go. So, that's probably a tie-in. Anyway, Douglas Adams was one of my favorite authors, and that TV series. There was also a movie. All the dolphins leave Earth and say thanks so long and thanks for all the fish. You know, that's another saying from. Anyway,
you need to talk to my husband about that because
yeah,
he read that, and yeah, that's his jam.
Okay, well, good. So, Kristen, how did you get into the financial services industry?
Out of necessity, really.
Okay.
My first son was born. My only son was born.
Your favorite son.
My favorite son.
Yep.
Was born in 2005. And soon after, my husband and I declared bankruptcy. The funny thing is that my husband was like at the top of his game at the time.
Right.
And so we were feeling super successful, but not when you declare bankruptcy, right?
Right. Yeah.
That kind of brings it to an all new low. So after that, just, let me go back again. Growing up, you don't talk about money, politics, religion in your household. That's just
sex,
how I was
religion,
raised.
Money, politics. Yeah,
No.
Yep.
I mean, you have to learn all that on the street. It's
Right.
great.
Yeah. Now we have the internet.
Right, which is so, yeah. My dad always said, "Oh, you don't need to worry about that, right?" But yeah, you do.
Yep.
Otherwise, you end up in bankruptcy. And so got out of that, got back on track, cleared everything up, just only to get right back into the cycle of debt, right? Because it's in my blood. It's how I was raised. I don't know better. My
Right.
husband's, from Europe, so the financial system is a little different there.
Yep.
And of course, his parents never taught him saving or anything like that. So we're both in this nightmare cycle of constantly in debt and not saving money. And then finally I was like, okay, this is not how I want to raise my kids. So started saving and I was like, man, we are doing so good, out of debt, saving money, had some money going. And so I went to my bank and I was like, yeah, we're ready to go. Show us what to do. And they're like, yeah, you don't have enough liquid cash with us. I can't even transfer a phone call to you. And I was like, yes, that's awesome. So funny enough, my girlfriend ended up calling me a couple of months later, and she's like, "Hey, you need to talk to my friend. Um, just check it out, meet with them." And I did. And so he was the one that introduced me to the business. He's the one that said, "You'd be great at this." And I was like, "Yeah, no." Um, my finances were a nightmare. And that's kind of how I did it, right? You can't be an alcoholic and be a sponsor in AA without going through some stuff, right?
Right.
So I've kind of figured, well, I'm not going to be ashamed of it, even though I was.
Well, and I think you resonate with a lot of people that are listening, Kirsten, because none of us were taught about money, right? Or very few of us. That's
Right.
how generational wealth continues, is because people that have money teach their kids about money. And
Right.
that's why they can maintain it. For those of us that don't have money, it's hard for us because we were never taught, then we never teach, right? And we know that with different ethnic communities around the world, is they have different skills. If you look at Northern Indians, right, dot not feather, so from people from Gujarat in India, a lot of them own hotels because they're raised on how to own hotels. A lot of Southern Indians become engineers and doctors and that sort of stuff because their parents were doctors. And I know so many Indian doctors that said, "I didn't want to be a doctor, but my parents were doctors and it's what they wanted me to be." So we can be educated. So for you to step outside of that and educate yourself, that must have had a whole ream of challenges that you didn't even know you were going to have to face, right?
Right. It's a relationship with money.
Right.
And my husband's relationship with money. It was always a scarcity mindset, rich people are evil, money doesn't grow on trees, all of the stuff, which is not true because I want money. I want lots of money because the more money I have, the more I can do with it, right? I have a goal of starting nonprofits, and you can't do any of that without money, right?
Right.
It's a nonprofit.
Yeah, it's not that you
Um,
want the money or Paul wants the money or I want the money. When you walk out of the grocery store with a head of lettuce and a carton of eggs, they want to be paid because their shareholders want dividends, right?
right.
So it's not us that wants the money, it's everybody else that wants the money, right?
Right. And money is not that important. It's just it's up there with air.
Right.
Um, you know, so that's kind of circling to where I am today. I hear my dad, he's 76 in January. So he's concerned about outliving his money, right? He took early retirement, but what he didn't plan on was taking care of somebody on the long-term care side of things.
Right.
Um, and that can eat away very quickly. And your retirement money that can just destroy it really. And he was prepared. He had a long-term care policy and everything, but still, it's not enough.
Right.
And so when I see my dad concerned about money at his age, who's going to hire a 76-year-old man?
Right.
Yeah. So that also concerns me too. I'm like, man, if nobody helped my dad and he was a great saver, then who's not helping all of the people that are getting ready to retire in 5 years,
Right.
6
Oh, I've got
years?
Social Security.
Right.
I hear
Yeah.
that all the time.
I hear the whole thing about pension. Yeah, but how much of your pension do you get? Is it 40%? Is it 50%? Because you have to fill a gap
Right.
with your pension. Um, so I hear this quite a bit, and that concerns me. I want to be able to help the people like my dad.
So, Kirsten, what's an ideal client look like for you?
An ideal client are like your clients, really. That's really an ideal client right now. Somebody asked me this question the other day, and they asked me who are the majority of my clients. They're solopreneurs, right? Because they don't have the 401k plan. They don't have somebody at their job in HR saying, "Hey, you need to start saving money, putting money into your 401k." They don't. They don't think about that. They think about their next paycheck and how they're going to get from A to B, right? They wake up unemployed every day for the most part. So that's kind of how they roll. As entrepreneurs, self-employed, is running. And you see that a lot here in Hollywood too, in Burbank, because people are 1099. So they're
Right.
going from movie to movie or from TV show to TV show, but not saving in between, right? And then all of a sudden they're 60 years old and have nothing saved.
Right. It's feast or famine unless they hit it big, and
Absolutely.
99.9% of them do not hit it big, right? So
Yes.
what's the name of your business and how would people find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. The name of my business is I'm a wealth builder. That's my sign.
Okay, that's what that logo is.
Yes,
For those of you
yes.
watching on
Um,
video.
I'm mostly on LinkedIn. I do have my Facebook page. I'm on Alignable. Um, I'm all over the place. I'm easy to find. I always give people my phone number. Call me, text me. Um, you know, another thing that I have a passion for is that, my dad keeps saying to my sister and I is, don't expect me to leave you anything. And we're like, yeah, Dad, we're not. Okay, we know. Um, but just to be constantly hammered that, take that home is like, you know, what if? What if? So I'm doing this for my family, right? I make sure that I have life insurance. I make sure that my kids have robust savings accounts. I make sure that I'm saving because if something were to happen to me or my husband, I need to be able to move forward. And so does my family. And I don't want to say that to my children. I don't want to give them everything, but I don't want to leave them
Right.
I don't want to leave them with debt. And a lot of people think, oh, when I die, my debt goes with me. No, you pass it to your loved ones.
Right. Yeah.
Don't get it twisted, right? So, a friend of mine, his friend was out walking his dog 2 nights ago, got hit by a car, broke both his legs, and smashed his brain, right? Didn't make it home from walking his dog, which he did every night. And that is something that we hear about all the time, right? We see the GoFundMe pages. My husband died suddenly. Yeah, but GoFundMe wasn't set up for that, right? They were
Right.
set up for small businesses to get off the ground.
Yeah.
They're not set up. And what do you do after the funeral is paid for? What do you do after that $6,000 is gone? Because it's about 6 to 10 grand to bury somebody. You left your family, um, behind and didn't think further than that. So I implore people just to think about the big picture, think about your family, and what you're leaving behind because it's not. We have to set them up for
Right.
success.
I have a verse in the Bible that I found through a friend, and it's Ecclesiastes 11:2, and in the NIV it says, and this is an Edward paraphrase, but it basically says, if you have 6 businesses, have 7 or 8, or if you have 6 ventures, have 7 or 8 ventures, because you never know when disaster will strike. And so I like starting businesses. I don't like maintaining them. I like starting them. And so then I get managers to maintain them, or I grow them and sell them, right? And so my wife says, yes, but it doesn't say 17 or 15 or 22 businesses, right? But my point being that I think, Kirsten, with a good financial plan, maybe they are more employees than they are business owners, but they should all be digging a well before they need it, right? Whether that's with their investments, whether their savings. I'm a huge fan of Robert Kiyosaki's first book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Paul, have you read that?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
I have not.
Yeah, big fan of that book. And basically he says, if you're going to have something that costs you money to own, that's a liability, right? If you're going to have something that's a liability, have an asset that can pay for that liability. And my kids learned that early on. My son has a chocolate addiction, so he sold chocolates at school out of his locker. He'd go to Sam's, buy a box of Kit Kats, buy a box of Snickers, and sell them. Probably wasn't allowed to, but he did. And he made enough money so that all of his candy bars were free. Right? So it can be as simple as that. So
Yes.
these are the things that like you said, we don't talk about money enough. And nobody wants to say, oh, Kirsten, I'd love to sign up for your program because I suck at my financial well-being. Nobody wants to admit that they don't know anything about money.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you overcome that? What have you found as some, what should people be aware of that are listening? Maybe they are not saving what they need to. Maybe they're not even contributing the full amount that their company matches, which to me is ridiculous. It's free money.
It's free money.
Get it matched. So what are some tips and some ideas that you have in our last few minutes?
You're never too old and you're never too young to start. Just start.
The power of the rule of 72.
Yeah, the rule of 72. Seriously, start now. And I have some really young clients. I mean, of course, my kids are clients.
Right.
But I have a couple of clients started at 18. I'm like, all right, let's go. You guys are going to be so much further than your friends. It's going to be incredible. Just wait. And really, that's my advice. Just do it. Start now and meet with someone. They have softwares that they use. We do financial needs analysis, and that shows people the amount of money you need to have when you decide not to work anymore, because it has that built-in algorithms. It has all of that. You don't have to do it manually. You plug in some numbers when the person wants to retire, and it spits out the information, right?
So what I hear you saying is you're not doing this all by yourself. This isn't all Kirsten. You have a system, you have a team, you have tools. They don't have to worry about that it's just one person's idea. This is a system that works. This is a process that works and can help them build wealth.
Yeah.
They just have to know you, like you, and trust you.
Yeah. And just a little faith mixed with a desire can be very powerful, right? Faith and desire is the first two chapters in Think and Grow Rich. Man, very powerful.
Folks, you have got some great book recommendations there. If you have not read Think and Grow Rich, if you've not read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Paul, what's your pick? What's your book that you want to add to that list? I know you like Go for No.
No,
I just put that in my list.
Go for No is, to me, only second to the Bible.
Right.
There's a book, but there's, the viewers are not used to hearing Paul not interrupt and be quiet. So I've been very quiet during this call. I'll tell you why. I never met Kirsten. And we've had some previous calls where we talked about authenticity. And in this message, in my background in the financial services industry of 40 plus years, I can easily relate to many things that she's saying, and I could mentor, tutor, consult with Kirsten all day long. What's inspired me is the purpose of our call again, coming forth today, is that you can rise from adversity.
Right.
We look at bankruptcy as a failure. And Kirsten experienced bankruptcy and the thought of it being a failure. But then she found the passion from within and learned through education, which is important to me too, that you can get past failure and rise and learn how to overcome that, and then have the ability and the willingness and the calling to share it with others, which is what she's doing. So while she was speaking about money, and I'm doing an educational call right now, outside of this wake-up call with Ed and Paul, which it's hard to believe I'm doing something without Ed, because Ed's a very important part of my life. But the gentleman on there is talking about how this is not taught in school, and this is true.
Right.
And one of my books, leading all that to the book, Ed, is How Money Works. Stop Being a Sucker. It's a great book. It's a great book that's on a lower reading scale so that many can understand it. And it's relatable, and it's true. It's not something we're taught. Everything that Kirsten's talked about has been extremely valuable for our listeners. But for me personally, rising from adversity and learning from that, and then having the willingness to go out and share it with a world that desperately needs it, because it's not taught at all.
Yeah, don't you think Don't you think we learn more from failures than we do from successes?
I do.
Absolutely.
I have personally, absolutely.
Yeah.
So sometimes for those of us that are Christian, we go through something and we wonder, why is God putting me through this? Why is this happening to me? Well, because he needs you to go help somebody, and you can't talk about helping that person without going through this. And so sometimes we need to go through it. Just keep going. Just don't stop. Like, don't sit down and have a pity party. Just keep going. And that's what you did, Kirsten. You were able to turn that into something that is now helping others.
Right.
In the last few minutes, what do you have any other things that you would like to share or questions that you would like to ask?
Just to reach out to someone, and there like you said, there is shame there, the embarrassment there. But what's more embarrassing, what's more shameful is being 60 or 70 and not having anything to leave your family, and not having anything to support yourself,
Right.
really. So the sooner, the better, right? We're never as young and healthy as we are right now. So do something, right? Don't doing nothing is not going to move the needle forward.
Right. And if you are in your 70s, folks, don't let that stop you. Read the story of Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders, with his 11 secret herbs and spices and KFC, started in his late 60s, early 70s. When his restaurant got shut down, he thought it was the end of the world. But he picked himself up, dusted himself off, said, I'm going to take this recipe and I'm going to sell it to other people that sell chicken, and everybody will enjoy it. And look what he became. You know, we know him still today. So,
Kirsten, another really important part of your message, sorry, it's been resonating to me during this entire call, is that the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step.
Yes.
That's so true. No matter what age, whether 23 or 63 or 73, as you've mentioned, you can't succeed in this journey if you're not willing to take that first step.
And ask for help.
right.
Asking for help is
There's nothing ashamed to ask for
super
help.
difficult for some people. And believe it or not, you know, my dad is now he's a client. And then when he met with my business partner, you know, I got off the phone with my dad the first time with my business partner. I'm like, I have no idea who that person is. He never talked openly about money. Now we do. You know, I'm making sure, Dad, you just got remarried. Is your will and trust up to date? No, I haven't done that yet, Dad. You know?
Right.
So these are the conversations. My kids are heavily involved with our home finances, with our business finances. My son does my QuickBooks. You know, because kids are fast on computers, man.
Right.
Just data entry.
Absolutely.
They, you know, we have our family meetings, and I make them go over our budget, our household budget, because you know what? The house doesn't run on air.
Right.
Okay. It takes money to run this house. And I want you to know this is what our mortgage is. This is what our electrical bill is. This is what the food in the fridge, you know.
Yeah, your 16-year-old son needs to know how much food he actually consumes. You know, I've got 3 kids and they're all grown now, but it's the same sort of thing. So I always talked about being a good citizen of the house, as if the house was a nation, right? The house is a nation. You play your role. Your role, and my wife would say it too, your role, kid, is to go to school.
Right, and be a good student.
And be a good student, right? If you want to do something on the side that makes you money, I, as your dad, her as your mom, can help you learn to do that, but you have to be a good citizen of the house, which means that I'm the king of the house, she's the queen of the house, and this is the way. It's a benevolent dictatorship.
Yeah.
That's the way this house works.
So true.
And teaching them to be good citizens sometimes involves, as they age and get more responsibility, that doesn't mean they can abdicate their responsibility to be a good citizen of the house. And finances is just part of that, right?
Right.
My daughter, who's now 24, she says, Dad, it's hard to be an adult. Yes, it is hard to be an adult, but you have a little ways to go. We're still paying your phone bill, but you're paying your insurance. So if we're paying your phone bill, you're not an adult yet. When you pay your phone bill, you're an adult. So phone bill, insurance, and car payment, if they pay those three, they're adults. That's my theory anyway.
Kirsten, for our viewers that are getting past the shame part of it, and they should, as we end the call, how can our viewers reach you? What is the best way for them to reach you?
Probably just call me. I'm a big advocate of picking up the phone and calling. I think I called, who did I call yesterday? Was it you, Paul?
You called me.
That's me. I'll pick
Okay.
up the phone and call you. Call me. And if you don't want to call, then text me. And if you don't want to text me, then email me.
So do you want to share those on our recording? We'd also like you to
Yes.
send those to us because we're going to
Okay.
put them in the notes.
Give me 1 sec.
Okay.
James, I'll be right with you. I'm glad you're on the call. We've got a great guest for my next podcast. It's called The Edward Show. And James he is a whiz with words. And you'll have to check out The Edward Show. That's my alarm going off to say, hey, you got another thing coming. So, Kirsten, share your information with us. We'd love to share that out with our audience, and then we will move on to the next call.
Absolutely. So my cell is 213-344-6337. And my email is Kirsten, it's KIRSTENJ.R Frank Mary RFM @gmail.
Cool. And we will have that in the show notes. So if you'll just forward over your contact details, your bio, and then we'll have that in the show notes when this goes live. Thanks so much for being on the show, Kirsten.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun and a pleasure. I appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this edition of the Wake Up Call with Ed and Paul. Thanks for listening. As always, we appreciate it. And if you'd like to subscribe, you can do that on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube. Thanks a lot and have a great day.